Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, you've brought in a fascinating topic, one that's been huge in education and business, but also pretty controversial lately. The growth mindset.
That's right. Dweck's work. Basically, the idea that your intelligence isn't set in stone, that it can be developed, it's been incredibly influential.
Hugely influential.
But yeah, with that influence comes scrutiny. People are asking, does it actually work? Can we replicate the effects? Is it scalable?
And that's exactly our mission for this deep dive. We're going past the slogans,
Right.
You've got the core theory, large studies, intervention results. We need to synthesize it all and figure out, does teaching a growth mindset actually deliver in the real world?
Okay, so let's nail down the definitions first, because that's key. A fixed mindset, that's the belief your basic qualities like talent, intelligence, they're just fixed traits, set in stone.
Which creates this urgency, like you constantly have to prove yourself.
Exactly. And failure, it feels like a verdict on who you are permanently, a catastrophe.
And the big one, effort is seen as a bad sign. If you need to try hard, you obviously weren't smart or talented to begin with.
Precisely. That's a huge pressure point. The alternative is the growth mindset. Some researchers actually prefer the term mutable self-theory, which is maybe more precise.
Mutable self-theory. Why that term?
Well, growth kind of implies you only ever get better, right? Upward movement.
I see.
Mutable just means changeable. It reflects that abilities can be developed, sure, but they might also decline if you don't work at them. It's dynamic.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's unpack why this matters psychologically. How does holding one belief versus the other actually change behavior when things get tough?
And it really creates what the sources call a meaning system. A fixed mindset tends to orient you towards performance goals. Your main aim is basically don't look dumb, avoid appearing incompetent.
So if failure happens and your goal is just looking competent,
You shut down. Or you get defensive. You make what they call helpless attributions. You don't blame your strategy, you blame yourself. I failed because I'm just bad at math. A permanent flaw.
wow, that sounds incredibly limiting. So the growth mindset person, they're focused on learning goals instead.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it means looking silly sometimes or getting a low score initially, they're focused on improvement.
Yeah, their attributions are different.
Totally. They use resilient attributions. Failure is seen as temporary, caused by strategy or effort, both things you can actually control and change. Okay, that didn't work. What else can I try?
This reminds me of that powerful example from the sources about praise. Praising kids for being smart, their natural ability.
Oh, yeah. That can backfire spectacularly.
Right. It makes them adopt a fixed mindset. They get scared of challenges because they don't want to risk losing that smart label.
Whereas if you praise the process, the effort, the strategies they tried, their persistence, that encourages a growth mindset. It makes them hungry for challenges because the struggle itself is framed positively.
You really see this play out in academics. Like a student with a fixed mindset hits a tough patch, maybe transitioning to high school math.
They often just give up faster, or they engage in what the sources call low effort syndrome.
Low effort syndrome.
Yeah, they deliberately don't try hard.
Yeah.
That way, if they fail, they can blame the lack of effort, not their underlying ability. It protects the ego.
It's like self-sabotage almost.
It really is. Meanwhile, the growth mindset student hits that same wall and thinks, okay, memorizing isn't cutting it anymore. I need to understand the principles. They try different approaches.
And it's not just academics, right? The sources mention sports too.
Definitely. The fixed mindset athlete thinks success is all about innate talent. They're the natural. Hard work feels unnecessary, maybe even beneath them if they truly believe they have the gift.
Compared to someone like Muhammad Ali.
Exactly. Ali wasn't seen as a natural heavyweight in terms of physique, but his success came from constantly refining his skills, his mental game, his unique strategies. That's pure growth mindset in action. Finding success in the process of getting better.
Okay, and business leadership? You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, the sources connect leader mindset to company performance, like stock returns potentially being higher under growth mindset leaders.
How does that manifest?
Well, contrast the genius with the 1,000 helpers leader that's fixed mindset, focused on their own superiority, maybe resistant to feedback,
Yeah.
with someone like Jack Welch at GE, who is apparently known for being more self-effacing, actively seeking criticism, admitting errors. They see challenges as a team development opportunity, not just a stage for their own brilliance.
And even relationships.
Yeah.
How does mindset play out after, say, a rejection?
It's quite stark. The fixed mindset person might internalize it completely. I got dumped, therefore I'm unlovable. It's a permanent flaw. They might even feel the need for revenge to restore their sense of status. Whereas the growth mindset person sees it more as data. Okay, that relationship didn't work. What can I learn? How can I improve my communication or understand my needs better for next time? They focus on forgiveness, learning, moving forward.
It paints a really compelling picture of the theory itself. But, like we said, this idea is everywhere now. It needs to hold up under the microscope.
Exactly. Which brings us to the controversies.
Right. Let's get into the data. Controversy number one. Do these mindsets actually correlate with real-world outcomes, like grades?
And the broad answer from large-scale studies is yes.
Mostly.
Mostly.
Tell me about the yes part first. What kind of evidence are we talking about?
We're talking huge data sets. The PISA survey, that's the International Student Assessment across scores of countries.
Okay.
Data from major U.S. school districts, the entire public school system in Chile. They consistently find a positive link between students holding a growth mindset and getting better academic results.
How strong is that link, statistically speaking?
The correlations reported are often in the RH 0.24 to R equals 0.34 range, which is considered, small to medium, but definitely consistent.
And who does it seem to matter most for?
That's crucial. The link appears strongest for students who are already facing academic hurdles. Lower achieving students, students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, for them, the mindset seems to make a bigger difference.
Okay, so that's the yes. What about the mostly? Where does it get fuzzy?
Well, the correlation isn't universal. In some specific cultural contexts, the link is weak or even non-existent. The sources mention mainland China and the Czech Republic as examples from the PISA data.
Mainland China. What happened there?
Interestingly, in mainland China, they found the strongest association between having a fixed mindset and reporting a high fear of failure.
So fixed mindset didn't correlate with lower scores, but with more anxiety.
Exactly. It suggests the impact of the mindset might shift depending on the cultural context. In a high-pressure system where failure has huge social consequences, maybe the fixed mindset manifests more as psychological distress than poor performance. The context really matters.
That makes sense. Okay, so correlation exists, but it's nuanced. What about controversy two? Can we actually teach this? Do the interventions work?
This is a huge area of research, and yes, there's strong evidence that interventions can work.
What do these interventions typically look like? Is it just telling kids to have a growth mindset?
No, definitely not just motivational fluff. They're usually quite specific, often short online modules, maybe less than an hour total.
Okay.
They teach the science the idea that the brain is like a muscle, neuroplasticity, that challenges actually make your brain stronger.
So it provides a reason for effort, not just an instruction.
Precisely. And they often include activities to make it stick, like having students write letters, advising younger students who are struggling. That helps internalize the message.
And the evidence that these work, you mentioned big studies.
Yes, multiple pre-registered replication studies. The big one is the National Study of Learning Mindsets, or NSLM. Huge scale, over 40,000 U.S. high school students.
And what did the NSLM find?
It confirmed that these short, scalable interventions can produce effects. Specifically, it significantly boosted grades for the lower achieving students in the sample.
So, again, hitting hardest where the need seems greatest.
Exactly. And it wasn't just grades. It also increased challenge-seeking behavior across the board. More students opted into taking advanced math courses after the intervention, for example.
Okay, that sounds pretty positive. Which leads us to controversy three, the one you hear all the time.
Okay, maybe there's an effect, but it's tiny. It's statistically significant, but practically meaningless.
Ah, yes, the effect size debate. This is a major criticism. People see a small number, like a 0.11 standard deviation improvement from the NSLM for lower achievers, and they dismiss it.
Why is that dismissal potentially unfair? Because they're often using the wrong yardstick. Critics might compare that 0.11 to effect sizes from, say, immediate recall tests in a lab setting, where you might see a 0.5 or 0.6 SD effect right after an intervention.
But that's not a fair comparison to real-world grades over a semester or a year, right?
Not at all. It's apples and oranges. We need to compare it to other real-world educational interventions measured over time.
So what is a realistic benchmark for those?
When you look at meta-analyses of things that actually move the needle on grades or test scores in schools, the typical effect size is much smaller. Maybe around 0.10 SD is average.
Wow, only 0.10.
Yeah. Getting up to 0.20 SD is considered really good best-case scenario stuff. That might be the effect of, say, dramatically reducing class sizes, which is hugely expensive. Or maybe having a truly exceptional teacher for a full year, which is hard to scale.
Okay, so against that backdrop, how does the NSLM's 0.11 SD for lower achieving students look?
It looks pretty impressive, actually, especially when you remember it came from a very short, very low-cost, easily scalable online intervention.
Can we translate that 0.11 SD into something more concrete?
We can. The NSLM researchers calculated that this effect size translated to a 5.3 percentage point reduction in the rate of students receiving D or F grades among those lower achieving ninth graders.
5.3% fewer kids failing courses.
Scaled up nationally, they estimated that could mean preventing something like 90,000 at-risk ninth graders per year from falling off track academically for a minimal investment per student.
Okay, that context changes everything. That sounds genuinely meaningful.
It really does. It suggests the argument shouldn't be if it works, but when and for whom it works best.
Which brings us to the big takeaway, really.
Yeah.
The Mindset X context framework.
Exactly. The fact that results vary isn't just noise, it's information. This framework says, look, a growth mindset intervention is likely to be most effective when two conditions are met.
What are they?
One, the person actually needs it. They have to be facing real challenges or setbacks where that belief system can make a difference, like those lower achieving students.
Makes sense. And the second condition?
The context has to support acting on that mindset. The environment needs to provide opportunities and encouragement for taking on challenges, for persisting through failure.
So you can teach a kid their brain grows like a muscle, but if their teacher criticizes every mistake or their friends make fun of them for trying hard,
The intervention effect gets dampened or disappears entirely. The belief needs fertile ground to translate into action.
did the NSLM find evidence for this context piece?
It did. The intervention had a bigger positive impact in schools where students perceived stronger peer norms supporting challenge seeking, and also in classrooms where teachers themselves endorsed growth mindset beliefs. The environment mattered.
That seems like a critical insight for implementation.
Yeah.
You can't just drop in an online module and expect miracles if the surrounding culture is fixed mindset oriented.
Precisely. Which leads right into the last controversy, or maybe limitation, teacher interventions.
Right. If context, especially the teacher, is so important, why not just train the teachers to foster a growth mindset classroom?
That seems like the obvious next step, doesn't it? But so far, the research here is, well, disappointing.
How so?
Large-scale studies trying to train teachers to instill growth mindsets in their students haven't really shown discernible positive effects on student achievement yet.
Why not? Is it just too hard to change teaching practices?
That seems to be a big part of it. Changing ingrained professional habits is notoriously difficult. Designing professional development that actually translates into sustained changes in classroom culture and impacts student outcomes is a huge challenge that the field is still grappling with.
So the direct-to-student interventions show promise, especially for certain groups in supportive contexts, but changing the whole classroom climate via the teacher is proving much harder.
That seems to be where things stand currently.
Okay, let's try to synthesize all this. After looking through the theory, the applications, the correlation, the interventions, the effect sizes, the context, what's the main takeaway for someone trying to understand the real value of growth mindset?
I think the core message is that the foundational theory seems pretty solid. The idea that beliefs about ability-shaped behavior holds up, and the effects of interventions are replicable, particularly for students facing adversity.
And those effects, while maybe appearing small statistically in isolation, are actually quite meaningful when you compare them to realistic benchmarks for educational change.
Exactly. The debate really shouldn't be if mindset matters anymore. It's shifted to how and where it matters most. The crucial piece now is understanding that context is king.
You need both the belief and an environment that allows that belief to flourish into action.
Precisely. The intervention plants the seed, but the environment is the soil.
Which leads us to a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
If those large studies, like the NSLM, showed that the growth mindset intervention worked best when peers created a climate that supported taking on challenges,
What could that mean for you?
what small, maybe localized social change could you try to implement in your own sphere, whether that's your work team, your study group, maybe even your family dinner table?
How could you help create a micro context just within your circle where resilience isn't just tolerated but actively affirmed, where trying hard and learning from setbacks is the norm?
It shifts the focus from just changing your own mind to maybe helping shape the environment around you, even in small ways.
That's a powerful place to leave it. Not just internal belief, but fostering the external conditions for growth. Thank you. This was a really clarifying deep dive.
My pleasure. It's a complex topic with a lot of layers.
Indeed. And thank you all for joining us. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.